Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look into one of the new feature from Databricks App. What exactly are Databricks App? So Databricks App is a lightweighted web application that runs securely inside your Databricks workspace. And traditionally, if you think about any web application, basically that building and deploying those kind of web applications required a separate tech stack, infrastructure, servers, and a lot of other things. But with Databricks App, if you look at the picture, you can turn your existing notebooks, your code, your machine learning models, and your data a shareable web application with very minimal efforts. So this gives you the power of exposing your Databricks environment, your data, as I mentioned, your notebooks, ML models, transformation to a user-friendly web applications. And here we no need to do like complex things like managing the servers or even the web frameworks, those kind of things. Everything is built right on top of your Databricks workspace. And you might be thinking like, okay, why we need this? Like, if we think from data professional perspective, the data sets any data engineering team creates generally consumed by a BI team, like a business intelligence teams or reporting team, a data science teams to do further machine learning stuffs, and like other data engineering teams or other applications which consume these data sets. So all these things can be shared through your catalog or data lake house. But there are cases where, like, for example, we are working with a team, they don't have the similar tech stack as ours. So in that cases, we have to expose our data as an API, and these teams consume it depending on their tech stack. In that case, a web application will be a good use. The second is like a ChatGPT style bots. So like nowadays, as we know, AI is used by a lot of data professionals and dealing with the data. So if we can build an internal AI chatbot UI that interacts with our Databricks data, that will be very helpful for non-technical users. And also this can be used for like creating dashboardings. So not every company have like BI tools like Power BI and Tableau. So in those cases, we can use Databricks app to quickly host dashboards using like Plotly or Dash, those kind of things. And what makes like Databricks apps are so effective in these use cases? Like, as I mentioned, no extra infrastructure. So we don't have to set up any EC2 virtual machines or any kind of virtual machines. We don't have to worry about the ports, proxies, network. Everything is taken care. The second is security is a big thing. Like while we're building the applications, and everything here is secure by default because authentication and workspace permissions are already handled here. And the third important, I'll say, the tight integration with your data, which is like very critical here. Like we can run our SQL queries against our data using these web app. We don't have to worry about much other things. We can use Databricks SDK to run these queries. The fourth one is like fast deployment. We can deploy these applications much faster than any external web applications because we don't have to worry about, as I mentioned, for infrastructure, like we don't have to worry about servers, Dockers, Kubernetes, depending on like what our company is using for web applications. But in this case, you don't have to worry about anything. And it's lightweighted. That's like another good thing. So for any internal use cases, this is like a perfect example. You can build like complex things here too, but like I think so far it's still in very initial stages, and it's used mainly for lightweighted kind of situations, like where you have a small number of users want to consume this. And these are the like advantages, but there are a few things we need to keep in mind too. One thing is like there is like limited logging and debugging. So logs are not very detailed. If your app fails, or let's say you're deploying it, something goes wrong, you generally logs are not that good. So it's recommended to include structured logs in your Python code. Not at least at this stage, it's not ideal for the complex UI. Like if you have a public facing app, I won't recommend that you should build this in Databricks. And performance is again, like if you have too many users, performance, there, like you need to be a bit cautious how you manage your cluster and all. Let's jump into the demo. For this demo, we will be using Azure Databricks. The screen you are seeing, this is once you provision your Databricks in Azure, this will be your landing page. So here, to build a Databricks app, what you need to do is basically click on New, and here you can see the app option to create this. If you click on this, it will come out with like some templates and show you what are the things you can do using Databricks app. So it already have built in so many templates, like you have Dash, which you can use to create a chatbot, a data app where you can read data from your SQL warehouse, do the visualization. And they also have like a lake base where you can create a CRUD kind of applications where you can store you can update data and store that into a Postgres database. And a simple application of Hello World, like any other applications, can also be built here. And there are like bunch of other templates available, like Flask. For that, they have these two out of the box template, Gradle, Shiny, Streamlit, Node.js. So multiple out of the box templates are available to build your applications. But if you want to build a custom application, you can do that too. So in our case, we're going to build a custom application. And it's basically a simple web UI built using the Dash, where we'll be exploring the New York taxi data and having a simple model to predict the fare. And on top of that, we will create a REST API so other systems can fetch these trips, summary stats, and get up like a fare prediction, those kind of things. So basically an application which have a UI where they will we can explore the New York taxi data, and in the same application, like creating REST API so other people can consume this data. Okay, so let me go back to first show you the structure of my Databricks app in GitHub. And I'm going to paste the link of this GitHub in the video description. You can grab it from there. So if you look at this, the Databricks app folder structure here, we have, as I mentioned, it's a simple web app. So we don't have so many things here, but we have a Python script, app.py, where all main things are happening, then a YAML, requirement.txt, and git ignore. So requirement.txt is basically to provide the list of the libraries we need for this application. And app.yaml is to run the application, to deploy the application. So when we will deploy it, you will see this. So basically what command we need to run to set our environment variables and those kind of stuff. And this is our application. I'll give you the bigger picture, what exactly we're doing. In this one, basically, we are connecting with our Databricks SQL Warehouse, run a query against New York taxi data, which is under the samples, and load around 5,000 rows into our pandas data frame. Then serve it through a UI using a scatter plot and simple input to predict the fare. And I'm calling it as a model, but it's a simple model. It's not like a machine learning model. And then an interactive grid to browse the loaded rows. And as I mentioned, we're creating an API. So this API where we will have API trips, stats, predict, those kind of things where people can grab from this application. Let's look into the code line by line in simple words. So if you look at the first 15 lines, these are basically, let me zoom in so it's visible. Okay. Okay. So if you look at the first 15 line, basically we are importing the libraries here, like all the libraries which we need to build this application. Okay, which is very intuitive. Nothing. We need nothing which is like confusing. And after that, like we are reading environment variables here, which we defined in our app.yaml. Okay. This one I haven't defined, but this is like an API key. Whenever like we are building an API application, we need to have an API key which users can use to grab the data. Okay. After that, basically, we are using Databricks Query Helper, which connect using that environment variables, using your like credentials basically, and execute the query. And if you look at this, this is basically in the first, like these lines. If you look at these, it's basically we are connecting to our SQL warehouse and checking if we can query the data or not. That's not that complex. After that, yeah, here, once we are connected, we are running a SQL query here, where, as I mentioned, we're going to grab 5,000 records from New York Taxi and then just print them. And the next thing I mentioned about the predict fare, it's a like you can think it as a model. It's not like a real machine learning model, but it's a model just to show you like what things we can do here. And as I mentioned, it's just a baseline. And if you look at this here, we are looking at the like pickup zip code and the drop off zip code, and just doing a mean on that. Okay, and we have a default value here, 99. So if you look at this, like basically the fare, like the fare we are predicting it's an average, or it's a mean of whatever records we have. And let's say if you don't have any records, then in that case it's 99 by default. So it's a kind of baseline model, not a typical machine learning model. And after that, we are using Dash Web UI, like basically creating a Dash app using the Dash framework. And underneath, we are like using the Flask server to attach the API routes, like in these two lines. And this is the layout. Like here we are like just like defining the layout, like what should be the title, how the scatter plot will look, what will be the x-axis and y-axis, those kind of things. And similarly, like what will be in our grid and all those kind of things. And after that, yeah. So till here, like this thing callback is like basically when you click on the product, like I will show you that it reads two inputs and call this function. The predict fare, the model which we talked about it, like this one. It's basically a function here. And after that, we are just like setting up our API key and all those kind of things for our Flask API. And from here, if you look at this, these are our API endpoints. So the first endpoint is the health, which basically tell us like weather status, if it's okay, like if our API is up and running. Then we have another one where API trips. Basically here, in this one, like we are using paging. If you look at this, yeah. In this one, basically, we are using paging to in-memory data, like not requerying the warehouse on each request. And here we have a cap of like 1,000 to avoid any huge payload. And as I said, like it's a POC, or like it's a simple app, so that's why. Then in the end, like we return the column name, count, and row as array of object, and we print this as a JSON on the screen. Okay, Then again, like another API for the stats, and for stats is basically like it's kind of descriptive stats, like what's the minimum fare, what's the max, and those kind of things, like distance. If you look at this, these simple min, max, mean kind of things. And after that, we have this predict one, where you can pass like pick up and drop off zip code, and after that, like it give you the fare. Again, like it's through REST API. We are calling that function or that model again here, and output will be a JSON. Okay, and in the end, like we have added like an like a small OpenAI doc to help integrate. So basically, if somebody want to use OpenAI, like someone want to integrate this application with OpenAI, like it's a good practice to add these kind of things. So whoever is building, let's say whoever is using the OpenAI keys or any models there, they see this kind of information right through our through our application, so they don't have to do a lot of like exploration and figuring out things. Okay, and in the end is basically we are like it's the entry point, we are calling it, and it's going from there. Now let's jump to these to the Databricks UI again. And as I mentioned, like we are creating in a custom app. So we'll click on this button. We'll give this as a name. Let's say API demo. Okay. And let me put on dash. I think we can't, but let me give it a shot. Oh, we can. And you can add the description if you want. If not, that's okay. Click on create app. And this is like all those, if you remember, like when we were looking at the UI, there are like different templates out of the box. So even if you pick any template and fill in some information, at the end, this is where it lands, and this takes few minutes to gather the resources for infrastructure. So basically at this stage, like the application is gathering the infrastructure for it. And if you look, the compute we are going to get for this is 2 CPUs, 6 GB, and 0.5 DPU per hour. So it's not it's a simple app. It's not a huge app. So this is what we need. In the meantime, I can show you once like this is, the compute is ready, where we can see this. So if you go and click on compute, and here we have an apps option. So if you click on the apps, and these are my two old ones, like these two, API and data app, but this is the one which we are creating now. Okay, and you can see that, like similar to any web applications, you can start your application, you can stop, you can delete, and again, like pretty similar to a web application service where you start and all those kind of things you could do. And the initial compute will take some time. And let's go here again. It says 2 to 3 minutes because it's gathering the resources there. In the meantime, let me click on permissions. Okay, show you this. Like this shows like what kind of like the permission settings you have for this application. So this one is my ID, can manage, and admins can manage and can manage, and the other one is can use. So can manage, basically they can deploy, update, do all those kind of things here. Can use is basically the users, and you can add the groups, users, and all those kind of things here. Okay, and now our computer is ready. So because it's a custom application, you need to, let me move this here, like you need to tell the application where is your deployment code. So as I showed, this is my, let me do zoom out. And Yeah, so this is our application, and I already cloned this. It's already exists in my workspace. If I go and see, for example, this Databricks app, click on this, click on. So if you look at this, these three, like this is exactly the same application. This is what I was talking about before. If you look at this, or let's like the SQL query, the predict fare, the dash API, like everything is here. Basically, whatever we need. If this is like the application, this is the app.api, which we have here. And if we go, let's go to our workspace, we can look at the app YAML. So this is our app YAML, and if you go and check here, it's similar files. So I already cloned this, and let's go to our Databricks app. Again, click on compute, then app, and here, if I click here, and like we don't have any option to click here and deploy this. So what we like to select the folder, what we can do, we can click on deploy. Here you select the path, and we will select that path which we already cloned. This is the one. We'll select this, deploy, and it will start deploying. Like it, if you guys have experience with the development, like it will start doing deployment. And the app crashed here, and the reason being is we need to we need to add our SQL server here. So we'll click on edit, app demo. Next, in the configuration, we will add a resource. That will be our SQL Warehouse. We select this, SQL Warehouse selector, save, okay, and yeah, let's deploy again. Perfect. Now you can see the app is up and running. It crashed because this is like, as you saw, like the SQL's warehouse was not connected or permission was not given. But this is a bit weird with custom, with the custom applications. Like they don't give you the permission of selecting the folders and all those things upfront. Like first you select your deployment code or the code which you need to deploy. And as soon as you click on that, it immediately starts deploying instead of like giving you an option to configure other things. So that's why like it fails. And as you saw in the video, but for now, let's go and look at the application. So if you click on this, it will show you the application. And as I mentioned, like it will, as we looked into the code, like it have a scatter plot, a table, and like predict fare, a model which we are using to predict the fares. So if we change this to, let's say, do it, and this model was simple, as we said, like it will do the mean, and okay, you can see the fare got changed. And if like we select a zip code and that is not in our record, it will give you a fare of 99. And now, like this is the dash application, and we as we know, like we have created the REST APIs here too. So if we go back, let's look into our code, how we can call them. Like if you look at this, the APIs, not this one. So we have like 4 APIs here. The first one is the health. Okay, so for the health, we just need to add this thing into our URL, and we will see the output for that. If you guys have worked with APIs, you know like how the API output is generally JSON that's consumed by that. But this one is just to check the health. And if we click on this, So it's basically tell us the status is up and running. In the similar way, let's say if we want to look at the, let's say actual trips for this one, we can do an API again. This will give you the list of the trips we have. And I'll do one thing, I'll write out. So you can see like we got bunch of record, and I'm not sure like if it's going to, oh, it's going to work. So you can see bunch of records were got out of it. And this is an API. Like this data can be consumed by third parties or necessarily like external users who does not have access to our like lakehouse and all those kind of things. We have like a couple other APIs. One is the stats, which I mentioned already, like it's give you the min max mean. You guys can play with it. And then there is another one is for predict. So in the predict one, we have to pass the like the pickup and the drop off zone before. So that's all like for this video. So basically Databricks could be like a very useful for some data professionals. Like it's making it is like easier than ever to build any interactive applications we have thought so far. And this is the biggest advantage here is like we don't have to worry about the infrastructure and all. And whether we are exposing our APIs, hosting dashboards, deploying our ML models, this Databricks app could be very impactful and accessible. That's all for this video. And if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as I mentioned, I'm going to put the GitHub link in the description so you can try it yourself. Thank you for the watching, and I'll see you in the next one.